Good morrow, nerds. It is I. Wow, it's been a long time since I've said that. I haven't recorded anything since July. Where has the time gone? What have I been doing? What happened? How has my year been? And what do I have planned for the future? Well, in this long overdue update, I will go over all of that, and probably a little bit more. But before we dive into the cause of my disappearance, I have 3 buttons that I'd love it if you'd click, and those are like, subscribe, and the bell for notifications. So, where have I been? At work, that's where. I started making videos for this channel back in February 2023, when I was unemployed and losing my mind trying to find something, anything to do. But as of June this year, I now have a job. Finally, it took far longer than I hoped it would, but I have one now. It's great, but it keeps me very, very busy, hence the lack of uploads. I did actually pre-record a whole bunch of extra material that I was going to slowly put out to make up for the fact that I simply wouldn't have as many opportunities to record things. But one, to be honest, looking back on all of those backup videos, they weren't very good. And the handful that I did put out didn't do particularly well, so I canned them and decided to focus on doing a single longer video. And that is the other thing that has kept me busy, is being in editing hell with that single longer video. But I'll talk about that in just a second. As for what I've been playing, what I've been doing in terms of tabletop RPGs, well, almost all of that has been Cyberpunk Red. I started a very long-term Reclaimer-themed campaign back at the start of July last year, and somehow it is still going. We've had more than 50 sessions at this point, making it by a long shot my longest ever campaign, and there's still plenty more where that came from, when I remember to actually prepare things on time, which doesn't always happen, but never mind. I would discuss it in more detail here, but the video that I've been working on all this time is a recap of the first year of the campaign. Only the first year. It's already a 3-hour recording, chopped down to a single hour of edited content, so there really is no space to be adding in more stuff. But yeah, that has been a very, very slow process. I've done less than half of the PowerPoint slides that I need for it at this point, and I have to go back and fix a bunch of the audio because the export went a bit wrong. So that will come out sometime next year. I don't really want to put any sort of release date on it because I've tried that before and blown through it by a wide margin, but I am working on it at least 10 hours a week. That's all I have to spare. So yeah, I'm going to keep on going with it and it will be done. The one thing that I will discuss with you guys today, though, is some more recent happenings that won't be in the video anyway, and just a fun little aside. As often happens in long-term campaigns, players leave. It's kind of unavoidable, but as long as you manage to replace them, the campaign will stay alive. And that's something that I've had to deal with quite recently. You see, back in, must have been April-May time, we lost a player, but I couldn't be bothered replacing him. I really don't enjoy recruiting new players. It is my least favorite part of tabletop RPGs by far. And so I thought, you know what, we still have 4 players, it'll be fine. And besides, the player might come back, who knows. Well, he didn't, and then recently another player left. And so I found myself not with 5 players, but with 3. And if I lost too many more people, the campaign would be in dire straits. So I finally sat myself down and did some recruitment. I posted ads in 4 different Discord servers. I went with that many because that is how wide I thought I had to cast the net to find anyone who could play Cyberpunk Red in a Europe-friendly time zone. As it turns out though, I was wrong. I had 2 people ask to join in the first hour, and in the end I got over a dozen requests from players asking to join, which was both very flattering and also way more than I could possibly speak to the point where I just started picking and choosing whose profiles looked the best to see who I would speak to next about joining. But in the end, I found 2 players. They've made characters, they've joined the campaign, and they're pretty great. So to both of you, welcome to the crew. But yeah, that is the Cyberpunk update that you'll be getting for now, and as said, eventually there will be a huge update on the first year of the campaign. As long and as painful as it has been to make, it's not a video that I feel like I could cancel or put on the back burner any more than I already have, because there's a lot in there that I do want to talk about, and it would really just become a matter of kicking the can down the road until a later stage in the campaign when even more has happened. And so I thought, you know what, I'll just finish this however long it takes. And finish it I will. But Cyberpunk hasn't been the only system that I've played all year. even though it can feel like it sometimes. The other system that I've played quite a bit of this year was Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Now, I've already made 2 videos about that game system, one before I played it and one after, so you can go watch both of those. That was certainly a difficult needle to thread, especially with some of the more contentious things that happened behind the scenes of that campaign that led to a bunch of players leaving, but for the most part that video seemed to go down well enough with the other people in the group, except the rogues player who was still angry that we didn't teach her the system well enough. But c'est la vie. I did get quite a few comments under that video of people pointing out some of the mistakes that we made when we were playing that campaign, especially when it comes to not using some of the other skill actions enough, things like grappling, demoralizing, fainting, that are tied to skills like athletics, intimidation, and deception respectively. And you know what? I do take that point, but I don't think it goes the whole way to understanding what went wrong there. The system itself, while it does point out these actions exist, and does give you the opportunities to use them, and the opportunity to get feats to improve them and whatnot, it's very easy to pass a lot of those options by, especially if you're new and don't really understand the meta, as it were. And so you can very quickly find yourself in a situation where, yes, you know that the demoralize action exists, but you don't have something like intimidating glare. So anytime you try and use it, you're going to have a -4 penalty for not sharing the language, because you're fighting kobolds, you don't speak whatever the kobold language is in Pathfinder, I can't remember, and I can't be bothered to check. But at that point, it seems less useful. Or you find yourself thinking, the feint action would be nice, but I didn't take deception. Oh well. And there were a lot of moments like that kind of derailed a lot of the use. There's also the small matter of bad habits from D&D 5e of you just do as much DPS as possible, because at least in that system, there's not much else to do. So yeah, it was something that we missed. It was something we could have made more use of. I don't think it would have made the combats faster, and so I don't think it would have solved some of the other structural issues we had with that campaign. It might have helped, it might not have helped. As I also said in that video, it's not really my cup of tea of a system anyway, because it is a class and level D20 fantasy thing. So regardless, I won't really be picking it up again unless someone drags me into it kicking and screaming. But yeah, thank you all for the feedback. The third system that I've played this year was D&D 5e, for only a single session, and even that felt like too much. This was when I played the Lost Universe, that one-shot that NASA put out. Again, there's a video about it, you can go watch that. I had very little fun running that adventure, but a lot of fun making a video about it. It was an absolute train wreck, but at least I got to farm it for content. But there is one system that I do need to talk about in more detail, since there's no content on the channel about it. And that's Amazing Tales, which is an RPG aimed at kids. I got this RPG for my 2 younger brothers last Christmas. I actually mentioned it in my 2023 in Tabletop RPGs video very briefly. And I think it's the only system of the ones that I predicted I would play this year that I actually ended up playing. And even then, only briefly. There was one weekend when we actually found the time to play it, and it's about what I expected. It's a very lightweight system. It uses D6s, D8s, D10s, D12s, although I did find ways to add D4s and D20s in because we had polyhedral dice, and you may as well use all of them if you have all of them. As far as any sort of review goes, there's really 2 halves to this. There's the actual system itself, and then there's what is it like to play RPGs with primary school age children. And those are 2 very different things. The system itself is very lightweight. Possibly a bit too lightweight. It is missing certain rules quite blatantly, like each of the characters does have 4 skills that are rated in descending order of ability from D12 to D6. But if you try to do something that doesn't involve a skill, the system basically implies that you fail, or that the GM should redirect the players towards using one of their skills. I just got my brothers to roll a D4. There's also no way of doing circumstantial modifiers. Again, I understand why this exists, but when I ran it, I did import advantage and disadvantage from D&D 5e, because it's an easy enough system for a child to understand, and I was proven correct. 1, that they would understand it, and 2, that it would be useful. Like a lot of very abstract, lightweight systems where you just have player-defined skills on a list and very little else, it does struggle with things like breadth control in terms of what each of these skills can and can't do. Trying to impose limitations can be quite difficult, especially when you're dealing with small children who are coming up with constant random dumb ideas for how their skills can and can't be used, where you as GM then have to decide, okay, what the hell am I going to do with all of this? So yeah, while it does everything that it sets out to do, if I do play tabletop RPGs with my brothers again, I think something more substantial would be a better fit. I think I briefly floated the idea of Pendragon, but then I remembered how much sex is in that game, and no, my brothers are not playing Pendragon. The Hero's Journey 2nd Edition, lightweight OSR game, it has more going on, there's a bit more structure and substance. I think that would work better. If anyone in the comment section has suggestions for good tabletop RPGs to play with kids, I am all ears. Now, what is it like to play a tabletop RPG with kids? I was going to make a whole video about this, but once I had more experience, which I don't think I have enough just yet. You're going to find yourself in a very improv-heavy environment. There's going to be a lot of dumb ideas being thrown around that you have to either incorporate, adapt, or reject. And don't try and track continuity too much because I promise that the kids won't be. Maintaining standards of appropriate behavior is also very important. It's not something that Amazing Tales really discusses. Not all children are made of sugar, spice, and all things nice, and you do need to actually make sure they aren't derailing things beyond the points of reasonability. The final note that I would give with regards to running RPGs for children is don't coddle them. Amazing Tales definitely says you should do this, that you shouldn't have really long-lasting consequences, that you should never make the children feel sad or upset. And I kind of get the point, but I ultimately disagree. Pain, rejection, disappointment, refusal are all a part of life. And a lot of the game and play activities that you should be going through as children should teach you how to handle these things. Because this is how you'll actually build the mental fortitude to survive adulthood. If you just tell a child, la la la, everything is nice, everything is amazing, you're a lovely little kid, everything is perfect, just express yourself, just be free, just have self-esteem, they will be the most insufferable adult to ever walk the earth. You do need to teach them how to handle limitation, how to handle refusal, how to handle being told what to do, in some cases. And while that might not be popular with everyone, it has to be done because the consequences for the child themselves are simply too high if you don't do it. Don't be really any more brutal than you would be with adults. Soften your tone here and there, make sure that you aren't being outright mean or bullying, of course, but make sure that you are firm with them, and then you make sure they understand actions do have consequences, both in character and out of character, depending on what sort of nonsense they're getting up to in that moment. Those are my musings. But yeah, I will be seeing my brothers next week while I'm editing this video. Hopefully I'll get a chance to play something more with them, and when I do, I'll try and put together some more structured thoughts on how to run tabletop RPGs for children. So, that about does it for what I've been up to this year. Obviously there's been other things in my personal life. As I said, I've got a job, I've been playing various video games, I got bored of Baldur's Gate 3 partway through Act 2, but I've been playing, more than 270 hours of Rogue Trader, which is a great game that I highly recommend. And I've also tried that Vampire the Masquerade, Coteries of New York, visual novel thing that they put out as a sort of we have bloodlines home kind of thing. It's okay, I've just started it, don't really have a strong opinion on it. Vampire the Masquerade, the tabletop game, is something that I avoided for a very long time because it seemed cringe. And then I got the books plus some Hunter the Reckoning one through Humble Bundle. And yeah, it is definitely cringe. I made it to about page 6 and gave up. We'll see. Maybe the Vampire the Masquerade video games will improve my opinion and I'll go back to it. Who knows? But yeah, that is the end of the personal ramblings. Looking to the future, the next video to come out on the channel after this one will be this Cyberpunk Red recap video. It is going to be a slow, laborious process, but it has to be done and I will get it finished. After that, I don't know. I still need to figure out what direction I want to take this channel's content in. 20-minute long weekly videos simply aren't possible with my current time schedule. I tried doing fortnightly 20-minute videos, but the algorithm didn't seem to like that. Maybe I'll try it again, but for now I want to see what longer form, less frequent videos do to my numbers. So there will be a couple more longer videos after that, but I don't know what pace they'll come out at. Hopefully they won't take as long as a Cyberpunk video. There will be other structural changes to the channel in terms of how I record and edit videos. The video after the Cyberpunk video will be edited in a different way. The way I've done my videos thus far is to record the audio in Audacity, clean it up there, do any editing that I need to, and then divide the audio up into little chunks with the label feature and export each little chunk as its own separate WAV file. From there, I import each WAV file onto its own slide in Microsoft PowerPoint, and that is where I build out all of the visual elements that you see. That system has to go. And so starting from 2 videos after this one, I will migrate over to actual professional video editing software. It wouldn't be Premiere because the Creative Cloud license agreement is awful, and besides, I hate paying subscriptions for software, but I will find something good to use. The actual visual style of the videos won't change, but the editing quality should improve. Things like sudden changes in the audio whenever the slide changes should go away. Transition should be smoother. There may be more elements of animation depending on how easy that is to do. And so yeah, there should be some qualitative tweaks in what you see, but in practice a lot of this will just come down to making the editing process easier, especially for longer videos. The other major change that will happen, although I can't say when, is I'm going to buy a new microphone. I have had this crappy old Zoom H2 for about 10 years now. I say I've had it, it's in front of me, but I'm not using it because the internal laptop microphone that I have is apparently better than it, which is most unfortunate. So that will need to be replaced, although that will only happen once I've moved house, which has to be done sometime next year. Those are the two main content quality changes that I'll be doing. There may be some changes in the style and structure of videos, but a lot of that is still very much to be determined. I don't have any particular defined goals for the next year of the channel, since I tried doing that last year. I tried aiming for 1,000 subscribers, and what am I on right now? 557? You know what? I did make it most of the way there, but once the content output went off a cliff, yeah, that was never going to happen. So all I'm going to do now is play it by ear, work on improving the quality, and just see where things take me. I am going to keep making videos. I do genuinely enjoy making them. Otherwise I would have lost my mind and quit long before I found a job. So rest assured, there will be more output. In terms of what I want to play in terms of tabletop RPGs next year, my time is mostly going to be dominated by Cyberpunk still. This campaign that I'm running will not be finished next year. I expect it to finish in 2026, so that will take up most of my time. Once the Cyberpunk recap video is finished though, I will finally have time to run something extra on the side. And that will end up being what was called the MCDM RPG, but has now rebranded to Draw Steel, which we don't have time to go over my opinions on the name change, but rest assured you will hear them in detail in the fullness of time. The backer packet was sent out to those of us who wasted our money on the Kickstarter back in September, and while I have read through the whole thing, I just haven't had time to touch it. I am going to run the playtest scenario, the Fall of Black Bottom. It is possible that the backer rules will be updated between now and when I run this, in which case I will just have to backport the Fall of Black Bottom, because I am determined to run it, I am determined to review it, and when I put my review out, you will see why. Given the amount of detail I will go into, I expect this will take 2 videos, one to actually review the Draw Steel backer playtest, and another to actually review the Fall of Black Bottom. But that will be coming out because oh boy do I have opinions about what Matt Colville has been putting out. I have liked some things, I have disliked others, you'll see which is which. But yeah, that has been my 2024 in Tabletop RPGs. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you all for being so patient with me through this very long absence. If you enjoyed this video, then please like it, share it with your friends, and leave a comment down below. What have you been playing this year? If you want to make sure you catch my next video when it drops, then please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. It really does help the channel, and also my ego, but mostly the channel. And once more, thank you all so much for watching, and until I see you next, farewell.